How's it going? Carson here on Happy in the Fly Outdoors. This is going to be our first video for Happy in the Fly Outdoors, and I want to kick it off on a pretty strong subject that I want to talk with you all about. And I believe this subject is pretty important, and I hope that you would like to listen. It's not necessarily like a very popular subject, but it's a very strong subject to me, and for how I'm going to represent my channel to you, and how I'm going to show you all of what I do and things I enjoy and love doing, and hope to inspire you all in regards to watching my videos and teaching you. Either I'm doing a teaching video or an entertainment video. I just hope that all these videos come in handy to you. So to kick off this video, I want to talk about me a little bit, so you get to know me a little bit. I've always been an advocate for the outdoors ever since I was a little kid. When I was young growing up, I had a bedroom full of cowboy things. My family's very, I would say, Western-like. I always watched Westerns with my parents, things like that, John Wayne and things like that. And I've always enjoyed watching Westerns and how heroic they were back then. Ever since then, I've always been an outdoor advocate, either going out fishing with my dad or going out alone in the woods and just enjoying the solitude. And I've always enjoyed going out and just enjoying what the wilderness provides, and what I can make out of things like that. So enough introduction, let's get right to the point. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about things that I want to talk about and share with the public. And then later on in this video, if you don't want to hear me rambling on and things like that, just skip ahead and just watch the fun part. But I would say this is probably going to be the most important part out of the whole video, is this beginning intro, I should say. When I grew up, I've never really had a lot of people, only a handful of people that have enjoyed the outdoors like me. I have never had people come up to me and say, hey, let's go out into the wilderness and let's go hiking, or let's go out hunting, crazy stuff. Let's go, try to catch a snapping turtle with our bare hands, something crazy like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be specific like that, but I haven't seen, when I grew up, in this generation, I haven't seen too much of people or kids my age going out and doing those type of things, which I'm going to show in future videos, things like that. But I've never seen anybody do it. Maybe I'm not in the right type of area. I'm in a pretty rural area, but I've never seen any kids my age doing the stuff that I'm doing. And I think a lot of people are getting too attached to their phone devices and things like that. Funny thing is, maybe some of you are watching to this video, but that's the point. That's the straight up point. I am doing this through the internet so I can inspire more of you out there, either my age or older. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you're 3 years old or you're 60 years old. It doesn't matter. If I'm still inspiring people my age, younger or older, this is the point. So I have always been inspired by survival and things like that. But the years went by, I've always studied more of how do these techniques, survival techniques, bushcraft techniques come along. And I think it came to the conclusion, either early America with Native Americans and things like that, all their techniques were taught to early Frenchmen that arrived in the US. And eventually, from that time of Lewis and Clark all the way up to the late 1800s, it's been the mountain men. And I've always been inspired by mountain men. I've always been like, oh, I gotta. Oh, if you guys out there have watched Mountain Men shows, something like that, that's a good show. But to know, we're really never gonna know the grit that mountain men had to go through during that time. And that's always inspired me to work even harder to do these videos, or start off this first video, and inspiring more people out there to to recognize these mountain men, either Kit Carson or Hugh Glass, things like that, and many more. And I like to share these folks, inspire other people from their true stories and things like that, heroic stories, and how they made America America and things like that. Hopefully, future videos that come along, I'm gonna try to do as much as possible. Heading out to college soon, but hopefully I can do some more videos like this, and more future videos, and inspire more other people about history and how it became, and just the darn out fun things that are just cool, you know, bushcraft, survival techniques, fishing, hunting, trapping, all that jazz. So to kick it off, from all the blabbering that I've been blabbering about, let's talk about mountain men. Now, when a person brings up mountain men, they probably think of many things. There's a lot of things to think about. When somebody brings up mountain men to me, I always think, oh my gosh, there's so many things that they had to do back then to survive. But there's one thing in particular that made them survive, or helped them survive, is beaver. Now, when I bring up beaver, I usually think of mountain men. Back then, during the fur trade, mountain men, that's all they did. They trapped beaver most of their time through the winters and springs, and then during the summertime they went and they traveled west, and or wherever they were in the US, and they traveled to their local rendezvous. Now, rendezvous are just big old parties for mountain men and Native Americans, sharing things, selling things, either from rifles to traps to blankets to clothes and things like that. And it's just a grand old time for the mountain men each year to come to. It's more of like summer break from school. And during that time, then after all the rendezvous was done, they would head back out to their local streams and rivers where beavers flourished, and then they began trapping again. Now, they didn't have any trapping regulation back then, but now in these recent times, beaver trapping has died down a bit because of the cost. People are still trapping out there and things like that, and rarely people can make plenty money off of that. Now, these days, not much money can be made off of beaver trapping, and now people are not doing it, and it has been recognized, and that's one thing that just died away from our nation's history. Now today, now I gotta stop talking about history. Now we're gonna be talking about beaver trapping. So, beaver trapping, oh geez, man, this is an awesome thing I love doing. The hardest thing for me when beaver trapping was actually finding a place to trap beaver. But many of you out there are probably wondering, why trap beaver now? Like, what, you're not gonna make any money off of it. Well, to tell you the truth, beavers are flourishing, and a lot of waterways, things like that, they can cause some problems with waterways or culverts, things like that. They flood areas, they flood streets and things like that. They can chew down trees like crazy, and then there's less trees around, and eventually there won't be trees any left around the area. And you just got to clean up all the dead trees, stumps, things like that, and sometimes they can cause some havoc. In other ways, you could still make a decent amount of money off of it. It's a side hustle, you know, things like that. You probably won't make a whole lot of money off of it if you do a full-time job on it. But for me, it's a fun hobby to help out conservational wise. Decreasing, I am not trapping all the beaver out. I'm not making them like not survive, things like that, or not flourish. I'm actually decreasing them just a little tad bit. Only catch maybe one beaver or two beaver in each colony, and that's about it. Now, money-wise, selling them at a fur trade, things like that, you can make some money off of it. But the most money that I've seen that you can actually make some decent money off of it is online, tanning the hides and making a beaver hoop. I don't have a beaver hoop on me at this moment, but in future videos I'll show you guys how to make your own beaver hoop and show you guys how you can actually sell your hides and things like that. Now, in conclusion of all this rambling and things like that, hopefully I can show you guys just the tradition of mountaineering and what the mountain men have to go through and appreciate our history. And that's about it. Alright, let's get to the beaver trapping video. Hey, how's everybody doing? Today we're going to be talking about beaver trapping. So in this video we're going to be talking about beaver behavior, everything from winter, spring, fall, and summer. And then we're going to be talking about the gear that you need in order to trap beaver and what sets to use when beaver trapping. Let's get started. So many people might ask, why beaver trap in the first place? Well, I think in the introduction I spoke a little bit about what and why beaver, what they do, and what destruction that they can cause. So to kick this off, let's talk about beavers in general and beaver trapping. Why do I trap beavers? Well, I'm not just going out there just for the heck of it and trapping beavers. There should always be a reason why you're out there trapping. Now, people might say that beavers are Mother Nature's conservationists, which in most cases they are true, but sometimes they can be a little bit mischievous. When beavers make a colony, sometimes they can plug up culverts, things like that. They flood streets, I said that in the intro, but they also can decrease the amount of trees around in the area, which can decrease in bird population, shelter for other type of wildlife, and things like that. And they just don't let things grow. Maybe sometimes they plug up dams, which might even flood other types of areas, like farming in areas, and they have a stream that goes by and they have beaver in it. Sometimes it floods the cornfields, which prevents them to grow crops. Now, enough talking about that. Let's talk about beaver. So beaver in particular are very, very interesting animals. They're the largest rodents in North America, and I talked a little bit about history with mountain men, blah, 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 back then, and now I'm going to be talking about beaver behavior. Now, throughout the whole year, they are working 24/7 on working their dams and lodges, but there are a couple of things in particular that you need to pay attention when you're trapping during seasons of the year. Let's start with spring. In spring, the mother and father have their kits ranging from 2 to 6 kits. During that time, they're teaching the young how to prop the lodge, fill up the dams, chew trees, all things like that. Now, during that time, throughout the summer, they're doing practically the same thing, but then when fall comes around and the temperature starts to drop, that's when things start picking up. That's when they're almost full adult, those kits are almost full adult, and the mother and the father kick them out. When they kick them out, that means that they have to find new colonies. Now, during this time, they go around. This might depend on you too, because you have to check your seasons and your regulations in regards to when you can trap them. During that fall season, they are kicked out and they have to find new colonies. When they find their new colonies, then they have to find their mates. Now, during that time, winter hits. Now, when that happens, that's when things start picking up. That's when they start making scent posts. While beavers release this gland, like deer or any other type of animal, to invite other females, things like that, and make and mark territories. Now, this gland is called a castor gland. A beaver castor gland is a very, very interesting thing because no other animal has a castor gland except for the beaver. In particular, of how they make their scent posts. They go around wherever they can find other type of areas and they find a post. And wherever they want to create their colony, that's where they put the castor mound. Castor mound is just a big old mud pile. And this mud pile, they go on the bank and they spread their gland all over the castor mound, and then they swim off, and that's that. That is super important when you're beaver trapping. That's what's going to make your beaver trapping so much easier. And we'll talk about that later on in this video. Now, from winter all the way to spring, they're gonna do that, making their castor mounds, creating new colonies, and finding new mates. And they're very, very tutorial during that time. And then come spring again, they have their kits, and then the season's over and they repeat the process, and then they find new colonies again. That's behavior all in one. There you go. And that's that. Whew, okay, now we got that done. So let's get started with the gear. Let's do it. So alright you guys, we talked about beaver behavior and things like that. Now let's talk about the gear and what you're gonna need. Now, let's get to the traps. So, a lot of people might ask, well, how do you trap beaver? What traps do you use and things like that? Well, this is one of them. Now this is called a 330 conibear. Now if you never trapped before, soon enough I'll have a trapping series going. But in particular, this is called a conibear trap. It is almost like, it's just a really big version of a mouse trap. So this is your 330 conibear. Right here in front of me, these two wires here is your trigger. Up here are your jaws. Down here is your another type of mechanism. It's called a dog. This is your spring. It has a lock on it because if you don't have the lock on it, it'll spring. This is called a 330 conibear. Now, why do they call it a 330? The 330 means the amount of pounds that this exceeds when it springs off. To set it, it just works like this. You set the trap. I'm not going to set it now because it's a pain to get it back together. What you do is that you put this over here on this mechanism. It has tiny little notch right in here, and that's where you put your dog. And then it sets, and then you take your lock off of the springs here, and then there you go. You have a set trap. All right, next up. Specifically, our next video that's going to come up soon is going to be how to set the trap and the methods of setting the trap in order to attract the beaver into your set. That'll be another video because that's a whole other subject. We're gonna only talk about the gear in this video, and then my next video is gonna be this. Alright, let's get to the traps. Alright, now we talked about the 330, now let's talk about the Foothold Trap. Foothold is a very simple trap. It is super simple, but setting it might not be that easy. This is a fairly big trap. It is bigger than my hand. But if you think about it, their flipper feet in the back are huge. They're like as big as my hand. Now, why do I like it? So, let me show you the components of this. So, this is called your jaws. This is called your levers. This is your pan here. This is your trigger or your dog. How it works, you have to set the levers down, a type of tool to set it down. It's really tough to do it with your hands because you could barely do it. I use my feet to, one foot on this side, one foot on that side, and I push down together, and then I am able to open up the jaws of the trap. And then once I do, I put this trigger over the jaws and then right under the pan. Your pan will be set like this. Alright, for example, this is your set pan trap, but the real component of this trap is the chain to your swivel. Now your swivel is going to look like this. This is really important to beaver trapping, and this will come up in my next video. Now let's get to the fun stuff. Alright, so many people might think that the traps are the funnest part, but the funnest part for me is all the small little gadgets that you're going to need for the trap line. You're going to need heavy gauge wire. This wire is going to be really important. This is how it looks. This is hefty wire. I mean hefty. This is 12 gauge wire. And then of course you're going to need some pliers with the wire cutter with it. Now this component, it's really important for the Foothold and the conibear. It's great for anchoring your traps. Also, this heavy gauge wire can help you with the Foothold traps and how to set them and how you can use them to trap more beaver efficiently. And I'll show you that in other videos in the future. But this is the pretty much the bomb right here of beaver trapping. You have to have heavy gauge wire. So we have our traps, we have the wire with the wire cutters. Now let's talk about the tiny little goodies that you're gonna need. Alright, so this is a tiny little waist bag that I have. It's kind of like I don't know. It's like this. You can practically get anywhere. It just goes around your waist, and it just has bigger pockets instead of your pants pockets. The number one thing I was talking about before in the behavior is you're gonna need a lure substance when you're out beaver trapping. Okay, you set your trap, right? So how are you gonna attract a beaver to your trap? Now that's when the beaver caster comes in handy. Alright, so beaver caster. Okay, what is beaver caster? That's the gland of the beaver that marks their territory, and it's a mating call to other type of female beavers. This is the magic right here. This is what attracts all the beavers all around, anywhere, and saying it's like a siren call to all beavers. Hey, I'm in the area. I just put my turf. This is my turf. This is what starts this is what gets the beavers going. Beaver caster. I had a little bit of fun with this. I found a plastic container, and there we go. Carson's Beaver Caster lure. I just had fun. I just printed it off. Where do you get Beaver Caster? So, Beaver Caster can be either be bought online, which when I started trapping, I bought my stuff online, or if you get your first beaver, then you can actually extract the caster from the beaver and then turn it into your own lure, which I did with this. I don't have any sponsorships or anything else like that. This is a new channel, but so the last beaver caster lure I was using was called Backbreaker. That was the bomb of all lures that I was using during my trap line. Or you could just make your own beaver caster. How do you make your own beaver caster? Well, first you're gonna have to extract the gland from the beaver, and you're gonna have to figure out what a caster gland looks like, but I don't have one on me to show you. But you could probably just find it online. Only thing I did is just extract it. I got a plastic container. I don't like glass. Why do I don't like glass? You're traveling around, you hit something, hit a rock, you fall down or something like that, and you break the glass, and then your beaver caster is just everywhere. That's why I just use a plastic container. Now, only thing I did, if you guys are interested in what beaver caster looks like, it's just, if I could focus, it just looks like really gross brown stuff. This is the magic. This is what makes beaver trapping so much easier for us trappers, and this is what works. Get yourself some beaver caster, you're gonna need it. Alright, enough of beaver caster. We're gonna move right down to the next component. Alright, the next gear that we're gonna have to need is a chicken. Okay, blooper, we don't need the chicken. But, sorry, that was a tiny little blooper, sorry. So, we do not need a chicken. Repeat, do not use chicken when you're beaver trapping. Are you really gonna scrape right next to the camera? As I was saying before, you're gonna need some sort of satchel, bag, back bucket, trapper bucket, things like that, in order to carry your... Sorry, the chicken's there. Now, this only carries the lures, the wire cutters, things like that. Other things that you're gonna have to need is a hammer of some sort, sledgehammer, things like that, or a small sledgehammer, and an axe. That's all you're gonna need. Alright, you guys, that's it for my video. I know it's just a tiny little introduction into the beaver trapping thing, but the next video is gonna be super important to watch in regards to setting your traps, how to set them properly, how to go out in the field and finding beaver sign and where to set your traps, and what type of sets that you're going to use in order to catch the beaver. That's in the next video. I hope you like this video. Hope to catch you in the next one. Till then, I'll see you next time. I'll see you guys later.